What? Our living room is bugged? I bought a bug detector on a whim while I was watching TV and decided to try it out immediately. The detector reacted immediately. It's a normal house. Why? When I screamed, my husband rushed over and smashed the bug with a hammer. "This should be fine now," said my husband. "Huh? Aren't we going to investigate who put this here?" I began to suspect my husband. Since the washing machine broke, my husband and I came to the electronics district today. I remembered hearing on TV that wire-trapping devices could be planted in regular households, so while we were at the electronics district, I decided to buy a bug detector. When I tried it at home, the machine reacted in the living room. My husband rushed in after hearing my scream and smashed the wire-taping device with a hammer. "That should do it," said my husband. After that, we didn't do anything else about it. Don't you want to investigate who, when, and why the wire-trapping device was planted? Why not pursue that? I started to doubt my husband. My name is Violet. I am 36 years old and a housewife, and I've been married for 8 years. My husband Harry is also the same age, and we don't have any children yet. We met at the same company as new graduates. When he proposed, he looked so cute with his face turning red and his voice trembling a little. He had never dated any other woman before. As a man, he may have felt a little inadequate. But I've accepted his proposal, believing that he would be the best husband. Before we got married, I visited my husband's parents' house several times. Seeing my sister-in-law's cheerful personality and my parent-in-law's gentle behavior, I thought it would be okay if we get married. I hear from my friends that many people are troubled by their relationship with their mother-in-law or sister-in-law. When my friends ask me for advice, it's almost always those issues. My sister-in-law was very happy for us to get married. It's like a dream that Harry is getting married. I never thought he would be able to get married. It seems like my sister-in-law, who was very worried about her younger brother getting married, my sister-in-law continued to laugh out loud. Because Harry's so gloomy and he's never had a girlfriend for 28 years. You're the only one who's seriously dated him. Take good care of my little brother. When I see my sister-in-law's happy face, I can feel how close we are. Even my in-laws were listening on those smiles on her faces. That's really nice of you. Please accept my regards as well. My in-laws bowed their heads towards me. No, it's the other way around. I'm the one who's inadequate, so please take care of me. I bowed deeply as well. Now I too can get married in peace, although I haven't met anyone yet. Violet, if you know any good people, please introduce them to me. She gave me a cute wink. I can't help but compare Harry, who's the complete opposite, to my mischievous sister-in-law. Even though we live together, I realize that our personalities are not alike. Our in-laws live nearby, and my sister-in-law often comes over to visit after we got married. I always welcomed her visits, and she always made me laugh with her funny stories. I even prepared cups and plates specifically for my sister-in-law. I got them in her favorite patterns. When my sister-in-law joins us for dinner, the table becomes more lively. It's been 8 years since we got married, but our relationship as a couple is extremely good. Maybe because we don't have children, so we act like newlyweds. We never got in a big fight, and our marriage life is harmonious. We often go shopping together. Most of the time it's just window shopping, but stopping by a cafe for delicious coffee, cake, or a light meal is one of my favorite things to do. It feels like we can just go back to the time when we were dating, and it makes me feel refreshed. And also, when there's a free concert happening at the shopping mall, it makes me feel like I got a really good deal. It's a rare opportunity to hear live music in any genre, which makes me happy. My husband doesn't mind the music either, so we can listen to it slowly all the way through. My friends say that most husbands aren't as interested in music, and it's difficult to listen even if they want to. My favorite is the performance by the local junior high brass band. While the performance may not be highly praised, I find joy in observing the families who come and enjoy it. They are probably saying, "Don't come see me" at home. It's also fun to imagine them having that kind of conversation. Actually, I have a younger brother, whom I've separated with since childhood. The reason was because of my parents' divorce. My younger brother left home with our father. I wrote a letter once, but I never received a response. I mustered up the courage to visit our father's house, but someone else was living there. After my father and brother moved, we were never able to meet again. This happened to me when I was in middle school. I will never forget my brother's carefree smile as a child. He would have become a fine young man. Today, I come to the electronics district because my washing machine isn't working properly. I found a cheap and easy-to-use washing machine, so I'm in a good mood. They even gave me a discount, so I have no complaints. On the way home, I did my usual window shopping. I rarely come to the electronics district, and it feels refreshing. I noticed my husband's ears perked up at the calls of the maid-themed cafe as we walked through the streets. "I'll be your maid tonight." My husband was indifferent, asking me to give him a break. I found that there were really all kinds of shops in the area. Among them, I found a store that was sold security equipment. They were saying on TV yesterday that even a regular household can have listening devices planted in them. The broadcast also suggested that if you're worried, you can hire a specialist or buy a bug detector and search for them yourself. As I entered the store, that sales security equipment, I saw various devices crowded together. Among them, I found a bug detector. Although my husband seemed disinterested in it, urging us to leave quickly, I decided to ignore him and went ahead and bought the cheapest one available. My husband looked dissatisfied, like he thought it was a waste of money. On our way home, I asked my husband, "What would you do if there was really a listening device?" I felt like my husband hesitated for a moment when I asked him. When I got home, I decided to try the bug detector as soon as possible. Let's start by checking the bedroom. If this private space hasn't been bugged, it's a serious problem. First, let's check under the bed. There was no response. I searched every nook and cranny, but the device didn't show any response. I breathed a sigh of relief and went downstairs. Next is the living room. Then I screamed. My husband, who heard my scream, came running in a panic. The bug detector I was holding in my hand started to sound off an alarm. When I operated the device near the TV, the alarm started to sound. My husband pulled out the power strip that was hidden behind the TV. A square box that I've never seen before was plugged in the socket. My husband pulled the bug out of the wall socket. "Shh," he says, putting his index finger in his mouth to signal not to speak. I covered my mouth with the palm of my hand and nodded. My husband took the wire trap into the yard, and then he put a stone on it and smashed it into pieces with a hammer. That should do it. My husband exhaled heavily and gave me a thumbs up, as if he had done a great job. The discovery of the wire trap was a big deal to me, and I was wondering if we should call the police. However, my husband has returned to his usual daily routine, as if he had forgotten about the bug. Shouldn't we call the police? How could anyone install something like that? Aren't you worried? But I broke the bug, so you have nothing to worry about. My husband was always saying carefree things like that, and doesn't listen to what I have to say. Anyway, what are we having for dinner tonight? My husband seems to always say things that are completely off topic. I was irritated, but I didn't want to fight, so I didn't bring it up any further. However, his behavior was too strange. Did he install the bug himself? I wonder why he would do such a thing. I can't think of any reason. I tried to ask my husband several times, but I was too scared to do so. I didn't touch the bug that day. Just in case, it was still installed somewhere. It gives me chills to think that someone might have overheard our conversation. It's no wonder I'm not talking much. What's up? You're not talking much lately. Of course not. We found a bug, you know. It might still be installed somewhere else. There's no way I can talk like normal. I see. After that, Harry remained silent and continued eating without saying anything. From then on, there was no more conversation in our home. We started whispering to each other and making gestures to communicate. Every day, my frustration grew. My husband wasn't going to do anything about it. Days like that continued for weeks, and finally my anger exploded. "Why aren't you doing anything?" I yelled at him. I couldn't take it anymore. "Hey, don't worry so much. We weren't robbed or anything." "What are you talking about?" Someone came into our house and installed a bug, didn't they? Why shouldn't we be worried? My anger has reached its peak. At that moment, the intercom rang. When I answered it, my sister-in-law was standing there. I invited my sister-in-law into the house, but I still hadn't calmed her. I couldn't hide my anger. I didn't want to fight my husband in front of my sister-in-law, but today it was impossible. I decided to talk to my sister-in-law about this, but she told me something I couldn't believe. She said she had ordered my husband to install the bug. I stared at my sister-in-law's face. Sorry, Violet. Harry came to me and asked if you were cheating on him, so I was keeping an eye on you. When I looked at my husband's face, he averted his gaze. And I saw you meeting with a young man. Both of them were looking at me. I took a deep breath. So, from an outsider perspective, it might look like I was cheating. I can't blame them for thinking that way, to be honest. Actually, one day I was trying to enter my house. A stranger approached me and spoke to me. I thought he was a robber and was about to scream, but I felt like I recognized his face somehow, but I had never remembered seeing him before. It's me, your younger brother Mark. It's been a long time, hasn't it? As I looked at his face closely, I was certain that it was my long-lost brother. He had grown up suddenly from the small figure I remembered, but his face looked worn out, and his appearance was shabby. I tried to invite my brother into my house, but he refused. I gave my brother a brief update on my recent life. I'm just glad to see my big sister seems happy. That's all I was worried about. My brother looks genuinely happy. I don't plan on getting involved in my big sister's life, so please keep this a secret from your husband. I asked my brother what had happened to him, but he wouldn't give me any answers, and he haggard on his appearance. I gave him my cell phone number and a small amount of money. At first, he refused to accept it, but I pushed it into his hand. Thank you, sis. My brother left without even asking me what was going on. When I was a little girl, my parents fought constantly. Whenever my father would hit my mother, I would hold my brother tightly and tremble with fear. Then one day, my father smiled and said, "Tomorrow we're going to the amusement park." I thought they had made it up. I thought we would be able to live together as a family from then on. I remembered being so happy that I had a hard time falling asleep. We played around the amusement park together. I couldn't help but feel excited for the fun life we would have from now on. When we had enough fun, we left the amusement park. My mother took my hand and my brother held my father's hands. We started walking in different directions. That was the last time I saw my brother. It was only the last time we came to the amusement park to play. It was only to make memories. I cried for several days after saying goodbye to my brother. Eventually, my mother scolded me for being too noisy. I was remembering my childhood and I cried out loud like a child. I confessed to my sister-in-law and her husband asked me what happened. While I was holding back sobs, I told them everything that had happened up until now. Later on, I heard from my younger brother what had happened about our parents' divorce during the time he came to visit my house. After the divorce, my brother lived alone with our father. Our father didn't work, and it seemed he spent all of his days drinking. He drank so much that it damaged his health, and he passed away a few years ago. Just as my brother was finally freed from our father's grip, he himself fell ill soon after. My brother, who was never particularly healthy, couldn't work and was struggling with his health. It seems like my brother's last wish was just to see me one last time. When he was sorting through our father's belongings, he found a letter I had sent and used it to track me down. I would have been extremely difficult for me to find. I had already moved out of the house I was living in when my mother died. I even changed last names after getting married. I can't thank my brother enough for finding me. After our first meeting, we didn't talk for a while, but then he called me one day. When I went to visit him, I found out that he was living in a run-down apartment and barely kept out the night dew. He was so weak, he couldn't even get up from his mattress. When we took him to the hospital for a thorough examination, they found out he had cancer. Anyway, I bought him a cell phone so that he could contact me if anything happened. As his illness worsened, he became more and more hesitant, but he started calling me more often. "What's up?" It was a call from my brother. He He was talking about random things, but he seemed to be comforted by our conversation. Lately, I've been visiting my brother's apartment and preparing food for him. I'd love to get him into a hospital, but I can't afford it. My brother made me promise not to tell my husband anything. I was at a loss for what to do during the wiretapping incident. I couldn't trust my husband after that. It became even harder to talk to him about anything. I mentioned this little by little, and my sister-in-law and husband listened sympathetically. My sister-in-law even shed tears. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, Violet, but you're safe now. You have Harry and me. My sister-in-law made a further confession. Believe it or not, the day after we broke the bug, we installed another one. And this time, it seems I found out one of your husband's secrets. My sister-in-law turned her gaze toward my husband and looked startled. Harry, you don't have to worry about money or anything else. My sister-in-law said, glaring at my husband. Oh yes, don't worry about money. My husband replied with a sigh of relief. In fact, Harry made a fortune in the stock market. My husband nodded slightly. He should have made nearly $1 million. He wouldn't consider keeping it to himself, would he? We have to share our good fortune with everyone. Misfortune comes to those who don't. My husband was taken aback by my sister-in-law's strong words. Of course, that goes without saying. His voice was a little hoarse. It seems like he wanted to keep up with his huge earnings with secret. Violet, you seem so distant. If it's difficult to talk to Harry, you can come to me for advice from now on. You're my cute little sister, after all. I cried when I heard those words. My sister-in-law hugged me so gently. It was really comforting. When my brother was hospitalized and started his cancer treatment right away, we spared no expense to get him the most advanced treatment available, and he's now recovering thanks to that. I can't thank my sister-in-law and my husband enough for what all they've done. My sister-in-law is constantly coming into my brother's place. She's saying she's taking care of him. They seem to get along so well. They're always laughing together. Sometimes I wonder if they're starting to develop feelings for each other. Nah, who am I kidding? I actually hope they do fall in love.